In 1945, with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the world got its first glimpse of the terrible devastation that nuclear weapons could create. With nuclear tensions persisting and rising throughout the decades of the Cold War, it became clear that something had to be done. Since then, several treaties have been proposed and/or put into force, with the goal of controlling the negative effects of nuclear technology. Over the next few videos, we're going to talk about some of the most important ones, starting with the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, or the NPT. First though, we should go over some technicalities of the treaty process. In order for an international treaty to have any effect, the countries involved must generally go through two steps: signing and ratification. Signing the treaty demonstrates a state's intention to consider ratification of the treaty, and in and of itself does not obligate a country to conform to a treaty. That's what ratification is for. In order for a treaty to become legally binding on a nation, it must be ratified. The ratification process differs from country to country. In the US, for example, a treaty can only be ratified by the president with a 2/3 majority approving the treaty in the Senate. Countries that didn't originally sign a treaty also generally have the ability to make it legally binding. However, in this scenario, the process is called accession instead of ratification. Oftentimes, as we'll discuss, a treaty will require that a certain minimum number of countries ratify or exceed before the treaty enters into force or becomes legally binding. Okay, so back to the NPT. The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons recently celebrated its 50th birthday, having opened for signature in 1968 and entered into force in 1970. It has been adhered to by 191 states, making it the most ratified disarmament agreement of all time. It basically operates around the principles of disarmament, primarily nuclear, but general disarmament as well, nuclear non-proliferation, and the spread of peaceful nuclear technologies. Here's how the treaty works. It sets up the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China as the 5 nuclear weapon states, and all other signatory states as non-nuclear weapon states. Although it encourages the spread of peaceful nuclear energy, the treaty stipulates that nuclear weapon states must work towards the total elimination of their nuclear defenses, while non-nuclear states are not allowed to develop their own nuclear weapons. The treaty also sets up safeguards to make sure that member states are following its provisions. Conferences to discuss the treaty and its implementation are held every 5 years. Article 10 of the treaty also provides each member state the option to withdraw if extraordinary events related to the subject matter have jeopardized the supreme interests of its country. North Korea withdrew from the NPT in 2003 using this article. One criticism leveled against the NPT is its perceived looseness. Its call for disarmament is based on what it refers to as good faith efforts in Article 6. There's no time-bound plan for nuclear states in the treaty to disarm. While there have been massive cuts in nuclear arsenal sizes since the Cold War, we're still a fairly long way from the nuclear-free world envisioned by the treaty. According to the Federation of American Scientists, there are still over 14,000 nuclear warheads in the possession of 9 countries in the world today. That's all for the NPT, but be sure to take a look at our next 2 treaty videos. And as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next time.